You can pour the most expensive liquid fertilizer into a raised bed, watch the leaves turn a deep, promising green, and feel like you have finally solved the problem. But 2 weeks later, the color fades. The lower leaves turn yellow, the new growth stalls, and the plant looks hungry all over again. The natural reaction is to reach back into the shed for the bottle or the bag. But if fertilizer keeps disappointing you, the problem is usually not the brand. The problem is the missing layer underneath your plants. 2 raised beds can receive the exact same seeds, the exact same water, and the exact same expensive plant food. One bed holds onto that fertility and pushes heavy, steady growth for months. The other bed lets the nutrients slip right through, leaving the roots starving in an empty box. The difference was buried before the first drop of fertilizer ever hit the dirt. The plant shows the symptom, but the soil holds the answer. This is where most gardeners get misled. We are taught to look at yellow leaves or slow growth and immediately ask what the plant needs to eat. We treat the garden like a hospital patient on an IV drip, supplying highly soluble nutrients that flush straight to the roots for immediate uptake. It looks like it works. The plant perks up, but what we do not see is what happens to the rest of that application. In a raised bed that lacks proper structure, those liquid or synthetic nutrients face 2 harsh realities. They either wash straight down through the loose soil and drain out the bottom of the box, completely wasted, or they sit in dry, lifeless soil where the plant cannot access them once the moisture evaporates. You are spending more money to feed the garden, but the soil system is holding less of it. Most bagged fertilizers do not fix poor soil. They just mask the weakness until the bottle runs dry. To understand why this happens, you have to look at how real soil functions. Nutrients do not just float in the dirt waiting for a root to bump into them. In a functional backyard garden, nutrients are held by a biological sponge. This sponge is made of organic matter, microscopic life, and stable moisture. When you pour fertilizer into a bed with no sponge, it is like pouring water through a colander. This is not about throwing away every box of fertilizer in your shed. It is about making sure the bed can actually use what you give it. Instead of buying another box of blood meal or another bottle of fish emulsion, the most economical and permanent fix is to build the layer that lets the plant feed itself. You can test your own raised beds right now to see if this layer is missing. Take your watering can and slowly pour a gallon of water over a bare patch of soil in your bed. Watch where the water goes. If it immediately pools on the surface and runs sideways toward the wood, your soil surface is crusted and sealed. If the water drains straight through, and you see brown water leaking rapidly out the bottom of the raised bed, you have no sponge. Whatever you feed that bed is washing away. The fix is not to add more input. The fix is to change the physical structure of the top few inches. You need to build a catch and release layer. This layer consists of 2 distinct materials working together. It cannot be just one or the other. First, you need 1 to 2 inches of heavy, finished compost spread directly over the existing soil. This compost is your battery. It provides the humic acids, the biology, and the physical density needed to grab onto nutrients and stop them from washing away. But putting compost on top of your soil is only half the job. This is a common mistake. If you leave that rich, dark compost exposed to the summer sun and the open wind, it will dry out, bake into a crust, and lose its biological life. The bacteria and worms that actually process nutrients will dive deep into the bed to escape the heat, leaving the compost useless. To make the compost work, you must cap it. Directly over the compost, you apply 2 inches of a dry carbon mulch. This could be shredded autumn leaves, clean straw, or aged wood chips. This carbon cap is the shield. It traps the moisture inside the compost layer. It stops the sun from sterilizing the surface. It cools the root zone. And most importantly, it gives the earthworms and soil microbes a dark, damp ceiling to work under. When you combine the heavy compost and the dry carbon cap, you create a dedicated digestion zone. Now, the environment changes completely. If you do choose to apply a granular organic fertilizer, You no longer leave it sitting on bare dirt. You pull back the mulch, scratch the fertilizer into the damp compost, and cover it back up. The moisture trapped by the mulch begins to break down the fertilizer immediately. The soil biology eats it, holds it in their bodies, and releases it to the plant roots in a slow, steady stream over weeks and months. Nothing washes away. Nothing evaporates. If your bed is already planted and the tomatoes or peppers are struggling, you can still build this layer. You do not need to dig or disrupt the roots. Simply drop the compost carefully around the base of the stems, leaving a tiny gap right at the trunk to prevent rot, and then gently lay the straw or leaves over the top. Water it in heavily one time to settle the layers together. Within a week, the behavior of that raised bed will change. You will notice that the soil stays dark and workable through the afternoon heat. You will notice that you are dragging the hose out less often, and when you look closely at the soil surface, you will see fine, white feeder roots pushing up into that damp compost layer, directly under the mulch. The roots will move to where the moisture and the food are stable. The payoff is a garden that breaks the cycle of rescue and starvation. The surface handles the sun, while the hidden layer beneath does the actual work of holding the moisture and feeding the roots. The next time you look at a bag of expensive fertilizer in the store, you can look at it differently. It is no longer a life support system that your garden desperately needs every 2 weeks just to stay green. It is just an occasional boost for a soil system that already knows how to hold its ground. Do not just feed the plant. Build the layer that lets